In 1405, China launched the largest fleet in human history, 317 ships, 28,000 men, vessels 4 times the size of anything Columbus would ever sail. They reached Africa. They mapped the world. But 80 years later, a Chinese bureaucrat burned the records. You were never taught this in school, and the reason why is darker than the voyages themselves. His name was Zheng He, born 1371 in the province of Yunnan. Captured as a child, castrated, made a palace servant. He rose through imperial ranks on intelligence alone, and by 1402 he had the full trust of the Yongle Emperor. The emperor had a vision: China would reach outward. China would make the world know its name, and he gave that mission to Zheng He. 7 voyages, 28 years, fleets that dwarfed anything Europe would attempt for a century. Columbus sailed a 90-foot ship. The largest of Zheng He's treasure ships stretched over 400 feet. This wasn't exploration. This was the most powerful nation on Earth announcing itself. The fleet reached places no Chinese vessel was supposed to reach: Southeast Asia, Ceylon, the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea ports of Arabia, and then East Africa, the Swahili coast, present-day Kenya and Tanzania. They brought back live giraffes, paraded through Beijing as proof the known world bowed to China. Ambassadors from 37 kingdoms arrived in the imperial capital because of these voyages. Trade routes opened across 2 continents. Detailed coastal charts were drawn, accurate enough that some historians believe they reached Portuguese navigators before Vasco da Gama ever set sail. That the maps Columbus and da Gama used may have traced routes Zheng He's fleet had already charted. China had opened the world, and then China closed the door. And that's not even the strangest part. The emperor died. His Confucian successors decided the voyages were wasteful, extravagant, undignified, a distraction from proper governance. By 1433, the expedition stopped. By 1436, it was illegal to build a deep-sea vessel. Within a generation, the Heijin, the maritime prohibition, had dismantled the greatest naval infrastructure on Earth. Shipyards rotted, sailors scattered, trade networks collapsed. The records of every voyage, every route, every coastline, every diplomatic contact across 37 kingdoms sat in the imperial archives. The Confucian bureaucrats had won the argument. China turned its back on the ocean. 60 years later, Columbus sailed west. Portugal rounded Africa. The age China had already begun was restarted by someone else. But here's what doesn't add up. Records don't vanish on their own. A scholar official named Liu Daxia, a Confucian administrator who openly despised the voyages, is believed to have destroyed the navigational logs, not misplaced them, burned them. The Ming court searched the archives later and found nothing. The most comprehensive maritime records in human history, gone. Every route Zheng He ever sailed. Gone. That isn't neglect. That isn't bureaucratic decay. Someone made a deliberate decision, and the question no historian has ever fully answered is, what exactly were they afraid those logs would prove? Here's what we know. Zheng He was a eunuch, and in Ming China, eunuchs and Confucian scholars were locked in a permanent war for imperial influence. The voyages gave Zheng He's faction direct access to the emperor, direct command over resources, direct power that bypassed the scholarly class entirely. The Confucians couldn't tolerate it, not for military reasons, not for economic ones, for ideological ones. Their philosophy held that China was the center of everything, that foreign contact was corrupting, that trade was beneath dignity, that a civilized empire waited for the world to come and bow. It did not go looking. Zheng He wasn't just a threat to policy. He was proof that the wrong kind of man could accumulate the right kind of power. Erasing the voyages wasn't about protecting China. It was about protecting a class. No records meant no precedent. No precedent meant no argument to go back. The bureaucrats burned the proof, enforced the prohibition, and let the shipyards rot. And when Portugal and Spain rewrote the map of the world, China wasn't in the story. That isn't an accident. That's the consequence of a purge. Think about what that does to every history lesson you've ever had. The age of discovery is taught as a European achievement. European curiosity, European courage, European ships pushing into the unknown. But the largest fleet ever assembled had already mapped those coastlines, had already made those contacts. The unknown was already charted. The story was rewritten because the original authors burned their own manuscripts. History isn't just what happened. It's what survived the people who needed it to disappear. Every major discovery has a predecessor. Every origin story has a buried draft. The question is always who held the match, and what they didn't want you to trace back. The logs were never found. Some historians believe Liu Daxia hid them, not burned, just hidden somewhere inside 600 years of imperial archives. If they surfaced tomorrow, and the roots were all there and the dates held, how much of everything else you've been taught would have to change?